Welcome to the Before. I'm Mongene Mutwa. President Cyril Ramaphosa says government needs to come up with a robust response to the devastating impact of the coronavirus pandemic on jobs in the country. The president made the comments during his second virtual imbizo last night. The president's comments followed news yesterday that 3 million workers lost their jobs between February and April this year. This as the country and the world continues to see massive retrenchments across various sectors of the economy as the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic unfolds.
COVID-19 is having that devastating impact around the world. The United States, I would say 2 months ago, had lost 26 million, people had lost 26 million jobs. And we are now in the midst of COVID-19, and this is what we are now having to deal with. And our response has got to be robust, it's got to be pointed so that we can protect our people as we move on.
But economists say government should stop talking and begin to act to boost the economy and job creation.
The longer it takes for the government to come up with a national plan of reviving the economy, the more businesses give up hope and close down. And they can't wait and just wait and hope that the government will come up with something. So I'm very concerned that the job loss is going to mount in areas such as hospitality, in areas such as logistics, in trade, and so on and so forth.
President Ramaphosa says government is ready to act.
We've got projects that are ready, what we call shovel-ready projects. We've also got projects on the public employment side. We're going to recalibrate what we call the EPWP to ensure that we've got a much more robust public employment process. So all that is being done and is part of COVID-19. We're not going to be waiting until COVID-19 is over, because we are in the COVID-19 era, if you like, and we've got to embark on processes that are going to address COVID-19 economic devastation right now.
The president also said government plans to bring more black people into commercial agriculture. Mongene Mutwa, SABC News, Johannesburg. Meanwhile, government is going to decide this weekend regarding calls by teacher unions for schools to be closed again amid a rising rate of infections among teachers. For more on this, I'm joined on the line by the general manager of one of the unions, the Public Service Associations, Mr. Ruben Malika. Mr. Malika, thank you very much for your time. I remember you came on this show early last month when the decision was made to reopen the schools, and you were adamant that it was a wrong decision. Do you feel vindicated now?
Thank you, Mogeni, and thank you to the viewers of our TV. Look, in the first place, we made that call from the onset on the 8th of June, being shocked by that at that time, just in a week time, then we just hear that the basic education was ready to roll out and ensure that the schools are safe. And we knew at the time that given the history, given the reports that we are having, there's no way that the school at the time could be able to ensure safety and adherence to the regulations. However, the grade 12 and 7 went to school, and it was a disaster. Day in, day out, all the time, the schools has to be closed in order to ensure that they deal with the case of COVID-19, where the decontamination, reinfection, and fumigation of schools has to take place. And that, remember, could happen in those schools that are able to afford. They are financially viable to do so. In the poor rural schools, the infection rate and the cost of any COVID-19, it was a hidden story. Nobody wanted to know about it. Principals were quiet about it, and which means that ultimately, even if there was infection of a learner or a teacher, nobody would have known. Nobody would have been making reports about those kind of things. And it's very, 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 very serious. And we are concerned. We are trying to find out all those kind of cases. We want to ensure that whoever has concealed any kind of that information in a particular school, somebody must take accountability. Somebody must actually be warned before a court, because he has risked the lives of learners, the risk of teachers, and even the community to some extent. So we are very excited that now all organizations that supported the school reopening, the teacher unions and the different formations are now coming out and realize that it is not feasible, it is not possible. We know that the Minister of Health is working around the clock with all his MECs, but continuation of the school reopening is going to collapse even the health system.
How so? Please explain that one.
Look, first of all, let me give a practical example with Eastern Cape. In Eastern Cape, after the school reopening, it was a disaster. Every hospital in Eastern Cape, as we speak right now, you go walk around the passages, it's every bag of every soiled, linens and everywhere. We are told that at night, once the doctors leave the rooms and the nurses also, there's a fight and big fight about who must survive, because people are fighting for ventilators. That tells you that if we arrive at a situation where people really fight for ventilators, what about our poor kids who might be infected and they find themselves fighting for ventilators with their parents in the hospitals? And those are kind of situations that we are saying, avoid this kind of situation of finding kids with the parents, being admitted in hospitals. We understand that this virus, as is the mid of winter, is going to spike. So at least it must spike at a time when we understand our hospitals are ready and are able to accommodate who really need the admission by the hospitals. Not every teacher or every learner who was there. Remember, the regulations also says that there should not be more than 50 people gathering at a time. But how do you manage if you're going to continue opening the school where obviously there will be more than 150 people that gather at the school at a time? That is also against the regulations. Look what is happening with the taxis. Instead of subsidizing taxis, they are just simply say the taxis must put 100 people, must put 100% load of a taxi. And that also is talking about our kids, because they're the one who has to commit in these taxis to school. And at the same time, they are saying it is going to be plausible because they'll open the windows. How do you open windows in a moving taxi, this kind of window? I'm sure somebody who has never been in a taxi, who doesn't understand what a taxi is, because I don't see any logic of any person who commits in a taxi and says, open the window on the freeway when the taxi is running at 100 kilometers per speed. It's just going to be disaster. So we are saying this is the right time that the schools must close, and we let the system, the health system, be able to accommodate those who really need to be accommodated, and the schools will recover. There must be a plan. We have proposed a plan to the Basic Education Minister at the time when she wanted to open the school. We proposed that the school reopen in October and the school calendar be amended to end in 2021. We have seen the good proposal of the Minister for Higher Education that the schools will run until March, and which makes sense because there's no way that you can rush the school at the expense of lives.
Now, coming to the issue of the infections, you're saying that the rate of infections is actually worse than it's made out to be. There are principals that don't report infections among the teachers. They hide the information. What do you base that on?
No, we've been actually approached by several members here in Gauteng, in some parts of Limpopo. We've been approached by their members. They've got tangible evidence to that effect. And we are gathering that evidence because we are not going to leave it lying. Because we can't let an individual who doesn't follow the occupational health and safety standards in terms of COVID-19 to expose and risk the lives of individuals, because it is actually risking lives of individuals, because if somebody is infected and you hide that infection, so the chances are that the next person, the first person, and exponentially.
Well, Mr. Maliga, I'm afraid I have to stop you there. We've run out of time, unfortunately, but it's always a pleasure having you on. Before we go, let's remind you that today the SABC management is meeting again with the unions to discuss, of course, the plans of SABC management to retrench about 600 full-time staff and 1,200 freelancers. They met 2 weeks ago, but they couldn't proceed because there were technical problems. But today they've reconvened and the meeting is proceeding as planned. After the break, the alternative investor with Nastasia Arendse